Hi everyone, welcome to the visual guide for the Tower of Zot. This is the first new leveling dungeon made available through the MSQ in Final Fantasy XIV Endwalker. Some of the mechanics encountered here may be confusing, but before they make you go berserk and force you to stop playing, let's break them down into simple elements. My name is Miztech and I'll be your dungeon guide. In this first section, you'll go through two sections of trash. Dodge the AoEs and watch out for the bigger adds as they can hit pretty hard. The first boss is Mindaruga. Minutia Bio will deal high damage to the tank and apply a poison debuff that can be Asuned. The boss will leap to a random position on the platform and begin to cast Minutia Blizzard 3. This will form a star pattern AoE attack and players will need to dodge in between to avoid. Minutia Fire 3 is a large room-wide donut attack. Players will have to move close to the boss to avoid getting hit. Minutia Thunder 3 is a set of smaller AoE circles that will form underneath the boss and move out in a cross pattern. These will continue all the way across the platform, so watch your step. Minutia Bio 3 is a room-wide frontal cleave. Players will have to immediately run behind the boss to avoid getting hit. From this point on, the boss can begin to transmute any of her spells. A marker will appear on the platform that will copy the boss's spell once this orb moves from the boss to the marker, and players will need to react to the transmuted spell from the marker instead of the boss. If you missed the cast or are unsure what spell was transmuted, you can check the boss's buffs. The transmuted spells will correlate to the type of elemental alchemy the buff is. The duration of the buffs also gives you an indication of how long you have before the transmuted marker attack goes off. While this is happening, the boss can also cast a regular spell themselves, and you'll need to handle it appropriately at the same time. Drupad will hit each player other than the tank with targeted damage and apply an elemental debuff that cannot be dispelled. Healers be ready. Eventually, the boss will begin to transmute two spells in a row, and players will have to react to the mechanics from two markers plus whatever the boss is casting. This can get a little confusing, and I recommend moving relatively close to each marker so you can quickly react to each mechanic. All of these mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. There's a decent amount of trash before the next boss, and I recommend tanks rotate their cooldowns very carefully, especially if you're doing wall pulls. Watch out for AoEs and burn everything down. The second boss is Deruva. Isitva Siddhi will target the tank for high damage. Cooldown and heal as necessary. Propti Siddhi will target all players in succession with a line attack. Move away to avoid getting hit. Minutia Berserk will form a number of berserker spheres around the room. The pattern of spheres is random, but there will always be one safe area that all players should quickly move into. The boss will then cast Explosive Force and the spheres will explode, afflicting anyone hit with Berserk, where they will lose control over their character, run to the boss, and begin auto-attacking for the duration of the effect. Next, the boss will cast Prakamya City, a point-blank AoE attack. Players will have to move away to avoid getting hit. Any Berserk players will not be able to move away and will be hit by this, so healers keep an eye on them. Periodically, the boss will jump to the center and cast Minutia Stop, afflicting all players with a stop debuff of various durations. As each player is frozen in place, the boss will cast Propti Siddhi towards them, making it impossible to dodge. Healers will need to be ready to shield beforehand or heal immediately after. Bonus points if you get frozen in a cool pose. Minutia Confuse will cause all friendly players to look like the boss, and more boss clones will appear over the platform. Of these clones, only one will be the real boss. Players will need to look for the only ad that isn't dancing when they first appear and move to the edge behind it, as it will soon cast Explosive Force. All the fake clones will turn into berserker orbs and explode in large circles. These mechanics will repeat until the boss is down. The last section of trash has some really heavy hitting mobs, so be super careful and utilize your cooldowns effectively if you're pulling wall to wall. The last encounter will have us fighting all three Mega Sisters together. However, we begin with Cinderuva alone. Samsara will deal group-wide damage. Healers be ready. Soon after, the other two sisters will join the battle and things start to get wild. You'll want to focus down Cindy as she will res any of her sisters that are destroyed before her. Since it's not really worth breaking down what each sister does, instead we'll look at what happens during Delta attack when they all cast their respective spells together. Basically, it's a lot of AoE dodging. A proximity base damage marker will appear on the platform and players will have to dodge the other AoE attacks as they move away from the area to reduce damage. A tank buster will occur while the rest of the group is targeted for damage and elemental debuffs. Use your cooldowns and heal as necessary. Be sure to also dodge out of the line attacks. During the next Delta attack, even more AoEs will form that players will need to dodge. As you're dodging, be ready to stack with the player affected by the stack up marker. The single attacks will repeat here until the next Delta attack. This time, players will need to move into the room-wide donuts while dodging the large line attacks. Then, be ready to spread apart the circle attacks to avoid overlapping damage. These mechanics will repeat until you destroy Cinderuva. Delta attacks will no longer occur here, and it's just a matter of handling familiar single mechanics until all of the sisters are down. If you have any questions or comments, please let me know. Up next, we'll head into the Tower of Babel. As always, thanks for watching. Till next time.